Notations21 Project's mission is to advocate open communication between all fields of study. I believe that to be an artist, you must immerse yourself with great passion in all that surrounds you. We can decide if our communication experiments, processes, and risks that we take have the courage to face being different. But I ask in my work the questions, and as John Cage said, it is about whether the questions are good ones. That's what's important.
Di rui di questa terra.
No, prego.
Conscience.
There are at present endless numbers of notational experiments happening around the world. They may not appear to belong to any category, title, genre, or school of thought. The creators are willing to take risks, ask questions, and are open to new ideas. And as Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all we now know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand. And this is what we celebrate. People from all backgrounds and experiences are breaking down traditional boundaries, and we are now collaborating together. It's a time to listen and communicate in new ways.
How do you feel about John Cage's work and his philosophies and ideas?
Well, he was a big influence on me. I mean, his writings, I didn't know him personally. I met him a couple times, but I became very interested in his work when I left school. When I was 27. And it was like a switch that before I was hostile to his work, and then after I was very interested and embraced his ideas.
What I find the commonality is that he was questioning and trying things all. I mean, just like the idea. I mean, the classic one would be like the 4 minutes, 33 seconds, whatever.
Yes.
Interesting in that you have this whole context of the concert hall, but the performer and performing, but this normally you would be totally focused on the sound of the coming from the performance, but there is no sound coming from the performance. So then you can listen to all these sounds that are always there, but masked.
John Cage's influence on our world is unable to be measured, and yet he planted seeds of thoughts in our minds, and the most amazing seed of thought is the concept of asking questions. The composers and artists represented in Notations21 continue to ask questions about communication, sound, creativity, our environment, and our experience.
Each player has some freedom to create his own voice inside short loops that they have the notes, they have it's actual notes, it's totally notated, but it's notated in such a way that it would provoke mistakes. That's the idea. But then you have those earphones, and the earphones actually trigger the some point inside the loop to do something which is my voice. And my voice says, okay, it's reading on your notation as a little square, and whenever you hear that trigger, you have to react that square. I think for me, I found the perfect balance because it's meeting together between my feeling of what would be the right time and the player. And I think that judging by other performances, the audience is always like on the edge of their chairs. Like, what's going on? What's going on? There is a whole like very energetic conversation happening there. Because they are very, how do you say that? They are engaged. They're always engaged. And that's, for me, is really the essence of music. If music is not being performed and being engaged while you're doing that, then the best piece will be the most boring piece.
Notations21 is an exploration of the borders of music convention to the radical and experimental. It examines where music notation meets the visual arts. The music scores found in the book were developed by composers whose creativity could no longer be confined by the staff and clef of traditional Western notation, but whose musical language communicates with the contemporary audience in a uniquely powerful way. About 4 years ago, I began collecting modern developments in music language and notation systems used by a variety of contemporary composers from around the globe.
Why don't you tell me why you chose portraits to be included in Notations 21?
This piece had an interesting process to it. I mean, first of all, I feel that my art, my dance, and my music are all part of the same thing. And everything comes from movement. There's a balance, and there's a flow of the energy. And by having that sense of awareness, of total awareness, and honor, and gratitude of the others that are around you, respect, that it provides a condition for complete communication and for trust in each other and trust in the process.
My graphic notation work tends to draw from visual art references as its source material, such as the landscape series of scores that I've done, particularly the score entitled Horizons, which is part of the Notations21 project. That score was purely created from a visual art context. I was thinking about landscape painting and the tools that visual artists use to create a visual composition. And I was hoping to translate some of those techniques into techniques that could be applied to sound as well, to the organization of sound. I'm interested in challenging what an audience perceives as listenable, and taking the Cage's notion of silence and there being no such thing as silence, and twisting that to a degree. I have one ongoing project that I call Audio Tour, the 433 Museum. And what I do is I visit museums around the world and perform 433 on my own without telling anyone. And my instrument for that is actually a field recorder.
John Cage's work, and that especially of his book Notations, pushed me forward to question what has been happening in the last 40 years around the globe in music notation systems. It was the concept of communication on all levels that had me captivated. My book was compiled by the use of a communication system, the Internet, of one composer sending information to another, of which John Cage did not have available during the 60s. I had over 780 files of composers' works in my collection about 4 years ago, and decided that this was a global phenomenon that needed to be brought to the forefront of awareness. The Notations21 project continues on as an advocacy program for new ideas and creative communication systems. You see, what is interesting is that students today are no longer limited by the knowledge of their teachers, as students of the past were. A composer or artist today can learn from or collaborate with a contemporary who lives half a world away. Like composer Armory Schaefer suggests, people echo the soundscape in language and music, and now the soundscape has expanded to include the entire globe. And that is what Notations21 is about, communication beyond boundaries.
Di rui di questa terra.
Na, proud.
Con